सो पहले आपने इस क्वेश्चन में जो मेन पार्ट है जिसमें एवरीबडी स्ट्रगल्स दैट इज कि इसमें आपने पैटर्न आइडेंटिफाई करने से दिस इज May June 2023 paper 2 question 6. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is identify pattern. So अगर आप ये देखो कि when you input 3, the 3 lines are being outputted, but there is only one star, and then there is only one line with a star in it. Okay? So then when you input 4, there are 4 lines with 4 in it, but only 2 lines with stars in it. When you input 9, there are 9 lines, but there are only 7 lines with stars in it. ठीक है? So पहले हम ये वाला करते हैं. So जो आपका number है, each line has the digit repeated digit times. ठीक है? जितना भी आपका digit है उतने times वो repeat होगा. Then in the lines with star, I repeated digit minus 2 times. ठीक है ना, ये आप लोगों ने यहाँ पे देखा भी है. Again, if we talk about 4, so the lines with stars are repeating twice, so minus 2. यहाँ पे 7 times repeat हो रहा है, so 9 minus 2. ठीक है, एक तो ये we figured out कि lines with asterisks are repeating digit minus 2 times, और उसमें जो asterisk की count है वो भी it's the same, like number minus 2. So यहाँ पे 7 है, यहाँ पे 2 है. So इस केस में जब 1 आएगा तो आपने सीधा सीधा वो आउटपुट 1 कर देना है. ठीक है, सो व्हेन इट्स 1 तो विल आउटपुट 1. द रेस्ट वी हैव टू डू इन द प्रोग्रामेटिक वे. ओके, अब इसमें जो कंस्ट्रेंट है वो मेन क्या है कि आपकी जो फर्स्ट लाइन है और जो लास्ट लाइन है, अगेन इट्स सब लाइंस हॉरिजॉन्टल प्रिंट होंगी. ठीक है, सो वंस यू अंडरस्टैंड इट्स ऑल हॉरिजॉन्टल, देन यू नीड टू नो कि अब आपने इसमें स्ट्रिंग्स जो है वो फॉर्म करनी है यूजिंग द फॉर लूप. सो दे वुड बी योर स्टार्टिंग लाइन and then there would also be your ending line which are the same. So let's make those. वो तो बहुत simple है. So user will input a number. इसका function या procedure ही बना लेते हैं. I believe इन्होंने भी यही कहा है. Right, for procedure square. Okay, we'll do that. So procedure square. Then we have num as integer. Okay. So first of all, if we get let's say 4, so we need to repeat 4 times and 9 times. So हमने क्या करना है? We can just make, let's call it line, और इसमें हम इसको empty कर देते हैं initially. ठीक है, अभी जिस तरह पिछले क्वेश्चन में किया बिल्कुल वही लॉजिक है. So for I 1 2 num, जितने भी आपके digits हैं, let's say if there are 4, so you're going to loop that many times, and every time you are going to add basically join or concatenate a star, and इसको हम next try कर देते हैं. Okay, and when we output this, so when we say output line, so when you do it twice, so you are basically getting the first line and the last line. ठीक है, अब इन दोनों के दरमियान में you have to output the part with digits minus 2 जिसमें आपके stars भी आएंगे. ठीक है, so how do we go about it? Again, आपके पास number है, आपके पास number minus 2 times आपने उसको loop करना है. So let's call it star line, और इसको भी हम initially empty कर देंगे. ठीक है, अब now we need to generate the star line. So यहाँ हम comment ऐड कर दें, generating lines with stars. Okay, अब उसके लिए what you have to do is you have to generate number minus 2 stars, और उसके शुरू में भी आपके digit आएगा और end में भी digit आएगा. So let's generate number minus 2 stars. So again, for let's say j1 to num, you will say star line is equal to star line n%, और यहाँ पे आपके पास star आ जाए. ठीक है, by the way my bad, यहाँ पे star नहीं आना था, यहाँ पे आपने जो number है उसी को आपने string to num में convert करके इसको concatenate कर दिया. ठीक है ना, because we don't have stars है, ये आपकी starting line है, and also the reason why we have to convert it into a string is because ये number आपका integer form में आ रहा है. So we are done with this line. So my first line, second line, last line again. Now then this is the loop that is generating the number minus 2 stars. So again for 9 it will generate 7 stars, for 4 it will generate 2 stars, and यहाँ तक हमारे पास star line भी है, वो ready हो गया. So if I were to just output right now, so output line, then I'm going to say output star line, and then output line. So what it's going to output right now is for let's say 5 या 4 ही कर लेते हैं. So 4 के लिए it will output 1 2 3 4, then 1 2, then 1 2 3 4. So this is generating the first time. So I'm outputting it here like I did it and like I did, and then this is generating the last time, and in between we are generating two stars. Okay, so now two steps are left now. एक तो ये कि हमने इन stars से पहले भी number add करना और end पे भी, and then we also have to repeat these lines n minus 2 times. Like ये जितनी आगे पास lines हैं star वाली, these are 7 lines. So again num minus 2, 9 minus 2, and then again ये जो star lines are 4 minus 2, you have to repeat them twice. So only two things are left now. So again we'll break it step by step. First, let's add 4 in the start of this line and 4 at the end. And this is very simple. आप अपनी स्टार लाइन को मॉडिफाई कर दो एंड यू जस्ट से स्टार लाइन के स्टार्ट में 4 सॉरी नॉट 4 num to string, यहाँ पे आपके पास जो भी नंबर आपने पास किया that should be concatenated with your current star line, and then उसके end पे भी num to string इसी तरह से वो num वापस आ जाए. ठीक है. So literally saying कि आपके पास जो दो stars generate होते हैं, first attach a 4 in the start, like the positioning really matters कि आप n% से किस side पर आप लगा रहे हो, and then बीच में you get the stars, and then at the end you get the number to string again, your the number that you inputted. So now it becomes a full string that we wanted. Also, we can just reduce this code because हमने num to string multiple times use करना है. So let's create a variable for this to save time. So we can have a variable and we can say strnum maybe, and we will convert num to string of our number here. And then we can just replace these with string num. यहाँ पे भी, then यहाँ पे भी, and this as well. So now we have successfully created the first line, the midline, and the last line. And now the only thing left that we need to repeat this specific line number minus 2 times. Like ये जितनी lines हैं, ये 7 times हैं, ये 4 times हैं, ये 1 time है. So that is the easiest thing to do. अब आपने ये वाला जो code है, simply इसको आपने अपने for loop में लगा दिया. So for let's say z 1 to num minus 2, and every time you are making this star line, and every time you are you can just we just need to make it once outside the loop, and then we output the star line, output star line like this, and we have next z, and that's it. So now this will come out to be ये अब हमारा जो output है वो इस तरह से आ जाएगा. And then if I input 5, so 5 के लिए it will repeat 1 2 3 4 5, then यहाँ पे plus 5 और 3 stars आ जाएंगे, and then last time would also be 5 times 5, and then this line would be repeated 3 times, and this is it. और इसको हम यहाँ पे कर लेते हैं end procedure. I know this was quite a complex problem, but if you look at it now, it's not complex in the way इसकी ये से structure इसकी जो है वो थोड़ी सी मुश्किल है, but the problem is simple. It's literally for loops. ये आप देखो इसमें कोई भी advanced concept नहीं है. For loop, strings, for loop, strings, for loop, strings, nothing else. और end पे बस हमने इन सबको output कर दिया. So we had the first time, then we have the star line, we outputted that many times, and then we have the last time. Let's run it now. Okay, so 4 के लिए ये pattern आ रहा है. Then for 5, it's giving us, so let's see, processing is slow. This pattern, which is perfectly fine, and then 9 को check कर लेते हैं एक दफा against the question. So it could give us 9 times 9. So 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then all lines. This is working perfectly fine. Okay? And again, this is not the only possible way. This is just possible ways. When आपको marking scheme में दिखाया था कि they even had this division where they had literally सेट कि अगर इनपुट 1 है तो आउटपुट 1, अगर इनपुट 2 है तो आउटपुट 2, 2 इनपुट 3 है तो आउटपुट 3, 3, 3 स्टार 3. दैट इज अगेन द लास्ट रिजॉर्ट एंड ओनली वर्क्स इन अ क्वेश्चन जहाँ पे आपको एंडिंग नंबर भी गिवन है. If they had said कि 9, if they had said from 1 till an indefinite number, so then you couldn't have used that if conditions वाली approach. But in this case, this was kind of a lucky exit in case you panic in the. Again, this was quite a time-consuming question. So I think marks इसके बहुत थोड़े दिन ज़्यादा थे, only a 6 mark question. Yeah, it should have been at least 8. But this took a lot of time. And again, ये within 2 में आया है, which is a bit surprising because at times within 2s don't get this tough questions. ये usually within 3 में इस तरह के आते हैं. But still a very interesting question. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next topic then. We have spent ample time on all the loops and conditions. Okay, let's do very quickly structured programming. First of all, let's start with definitions. What is a procedure? What is a function? Okay, so अगर मैं आपको बहुत simple terms में बताऊँ, it simply means that you are making a program reusable. Okay? So let's say you have a toaster. So a toaster is basically, you can imagine it as a function. Its functionality is that it will toast a bread out and you can reuse it as many times as you want. Not the other way around, ke you need a new toaster for every single bread piece. Okay? So ये procedure functions काम करते हैं, they basically make your code reusable so you don't have to write it over and over again, and so that there is more modularity and consistency in your code. So procedure is a set of programs. So a procedure is a set of programming statements that can perform a task, and then a function is a set of statements that will also perform a task. इनमें difference ये है कि procedure will not return a value, and function will return a value back to the main program. What does return keyword do? It terminates the execution of the function and returns the value back to the main program. Again, going back to the example. So let's say when toaster gives out the bread, it literally means it's returning you the toasted bread, and then you can use it for further purposes like consuming it, like adding it in some other maybe dish item जो भी है इस पे हमने peanut butter लगा रहे हैं whatever, so you can use it further. और इसके opposite आप ये imagine करो कि the bread doesn't come out. So the bread is heated, but it doesn't come out. You can't use it further. That is what a procedure does. It will get the job done, but it will not return you any value that you can use further ahead in your program. Okay, so then we have the parameters. Parameters are the variables that store the values of the actual values passed, which are called arguments in a function. So again, going back to this example, let's change this example because we have spent enough time on it. Let's talk about a coffee making machine. So coffee making machine में जो parameter होगा, so इसका function क्या है? To make coffee. इसके parameter में क्या आएगा? आपके पास coffee beans आएंगे, then maybe your hot water, maybe any sort of sugar that you like to add. So all the components that will make up coffee would be the parameters without which the machine cannot work. So advantages ये exam में आपने verbatim इसी तरह से लिख के आने. These are taken from the marking scheme. They can be called multiple times without rewriting. It is easier to debug because the code is in a modular form, and then code is more readable for other programmers working on the same project. I'll give you a very simple example for this. Okay, so look at this. अब ये वाला जो आपके पास generate हो रहा है ना code, this is written in a modular form. Here, all the values have different functions. Multiply का अलग है, add का अलग है, subtract का अलग है, divide का अलग है. So you can not just use in a simple calculator, but you can even call these functions for other purposes. Let's say आपने यहाँ पे calculator बना लेना arithmetic. Let's say you have a text calculator as well. So rather than writing all these functionalities again, you can just reuse them by calling them by writing their names. Okay, like this: add num1, num2, subtract num1, num2. You don't have to redo it every time. Okay, functions return a value. Procedures do not. Functions are called directly by using their name. Procedures are called by using call. Okay, ये सिर्फ pseudocode के अंदर difference है. In real life, no programming language makes any such differentiation between them. I don't know why it's part of the pseudocode, but still. So pseudocode में आपने call का keyword use करना है for procedure, और आपने एक variable use करना है for function. So when you're calling a function, that will return a value. So since it's bringing a value, you have to assign it into a variable. And when you do a procedure call, since it's not bringing a variable, you just have to use call. अगर आप ये नहीं use करोगे call keyword, तो you will lose 1 mark. Absolutely use it smart, but sadly you have to like cater to it. Okay, then we have some more definitions. Local variable, global variable, ये आप लोगों को आता है. Local variable is defined within a scope. and it is not accessible from outside. So basically it means कि if I have a variable in this function, let's say यहाँ पे मैं add a comma b में यहाँ पे मैं बना लेता हूँ एक variable, let's say z. So z won't be accessible in subtract. Z won't be accessible anywhere in the program because it's made locally. But if there are global variables, so global variables are usually um, declared at the top of the program, which is the highest scope. Scope as in कि वो आपका जो that specific area in which the variable is accessible. So यहाँ पे देखो अभी latest result जो है ना ये आपका global variable बन गया. Now all the functions can access it. Add, subtract, इसको सब access कर सकते हैं. The example of a local variable would be this result. So when you do a plus b, you cannot print the value of this a plus b inside subtract because this is a local variable now. And everybody can change the global variable. So this is how it works. Then you have parameters by val and by ref. इनको हम आगे देख लेंगे खुद ही ये क्या काम करते हैं. So इसमें थोड़ा सा syntax आ जाएगा. Let's look at the syntax. Again, I know आपको वो आता है, but just a quick recap. You have procedure, then you have the name of it. आपके parameters हैं. Parameters are optional. It's not necessary कि हर दफा कुछ हो. आपकी statements indented होगी and then you'll end with the end procedure. You'll call it using call. फंक्शन में एवरीथिंग इज द सेम, बट यहाँ पे आपने रिटर्न्स और उसके आगे कोई टाइप देनी है, लाइक इंटीजर बूलियन रियल स्टेटमेंट्स आएंगी एंड देन यू रिटर्न द वैल्यू एंड देन यू कॉल इट यूजिंग सम वेरिएबल. एग्जांपल, write a subroutine that will take a parameter of count and then print that when he starts on screen. So ये हम vertically print कर रहे हैं, so यहाँ पे you don't need to concatenate and stuff. So एक procedure है star printer, उसमें आपने एक parameter लिया, parameter की type बताई है, loop चलाया है, output किया है, and then you end the procedure. And it will only work when you call it. So let's say I don't call this, it will not work because आपको इसकी identify करना using its state. So I can call it multiple times. I can call it one times. I can call it in mid of the program. However I want to do it, it will work. And then I can also take input from the user. Then another program, very simple, subroutine to find if a number is even or odd. So उसके लिए again, you take number as a parameter. Then आपने इसको modulus दे दिया, output even, output odd, and then you can call it multiple times. And there's a very common mistake students do, that inside the module they will say input num again. और ये marking scheme में explicitly लिखा होता है कि if anybody is taking input inside the procedure or function, so you will not give the mark for this parameter because जब आप पैरामीटर भेज रहे हो, अगेन गोइंग बैक टू द कॉफी एग्जांपल, इट मींस कि you have already put in the coffee beans in it and then you're again putting coffee beans in it, okay, which makes no sense. So जब आपके पास value already आ रही, so even odd में देखो ये 13 जो है, this will be copied into num, right? So then you when you take input again, this overwrites the previous value and then you also एक तो logic इसकी खराब हो रही है and then you're also losing your marks. So please don't do that until and unless it's explicitly written in the program कि आपने इस मॉड्यूल के अंदर इनपुट लेना है, then you'll do, otherwise आपने इसको पैरामीटर के तौर पे ही कंसीडर करना है. Okay, now let's look at a function. So function में we are doing the same thing. It returns an integer value. So if the number is even, I'm returning a 0, and if it is an odd, I'm returning a -1. And then when I call it, I can capture this in a variable, let's say x, and then I can use it further. So if x is equal to -1, output this, else output that. So ये इस functions के सबसे बड़ी advantage है कि आप अपनी value को catch करके उसको आगे जिस तरह मर्जी आप program पे use कर सकते हैं. All right. So this was pretty much all of your function and procedures. अब by val और by ref की मैं definition आपको बताता हूँ, इसकी application जो हम next time कर लेते हैं. By val basically means कि आप एक copy pass कर रहे हो अपने variable की and variable के अंदर जो value है. So the original value is never changed in the module. And passing by ref means that you pass the memory address of the variable, which means any changes that you make to the variable will be reflected in the subsequent part of the program. और इसके लिए आप by ref use करते हो. Okay, अब इसका मतलब क्या है? इसके लिए we will go to Python. I'll give you a very simple example. So let's say I have a square here, and मैं इसका नाम है shape is equal to मैं कह देता हूँ triangle. Let's call this shapes, and the shape is triangle. Okay, and when I call shapes here, I'll get rid of this, and here I say shape, and यहाँ पे I'm passing shape as well. Okay, let's make it twice. Okay, and here I'm setting choice to maybe rectangle. ठीक है. Now notice ये अभी हम करें by val. This is by val. That means Python में explicitly by val or by ref नहीं होते, but this is just to teach you the concept. So I have a choice here. I'm passing the choice here, and this goes here, and then I'm changing it to triangle. Okay. Now what should happen is कि मैंने before I call, so ये देखो यहाँ पे होगी before the procedure call, ठीक है, and then we'll see after the procedure call. So before we have called the procedure, let's print the value of choice. And you all can see that it's very obviously going to be rectangle. Then we will call the module shapes procedure. यहाँ पे आपकी choice pass in होगी. So choice would be rectangle. It will go here. And then I'm resetting the choice to triangle now. And then when I reprint the value of choice, technically it should print as triangle, right? Because we have reassigned it. But if I do it, it still prints rectangle. This is by-val. इसमें हुआ क्या है कि आपकी जो choice में जो value थी वो थी rectangle. So rectangle literally was copied here. Only rectangle. It has nothing to do with this choice. And then when you said कि जो choice है उसमें triangle आ जाए, again this has nothing to do with the choice that is outside the module, outside the procedure. So this is by-val. By-val में क्या होता है कि you copy the value in the variable and you pass it as a parameter, and the original variable is left unchanged. So अगर मैं triangle की जगह let's say I make it -1, still it will not do anything. My bad. So if I make it -1 now, see it still prints rectangle. ये होता है by-val. ठीक है. Now I'll give a very simple reference for BYREF as well. Again, I know it's in Python, but इसके बगैर ये समझना बहुत मुश्किल है in pseudocode. Okay, BYREF. BYREF के लिए I'll use an array. Let's say I'll use choices की एक array बना लेते हैं और इसमें मैं कह देता हूँ I have square, I have triangle, and I have a rectangle. ठीक है. Okay. So अभी हम इसको से print करते हैं. It's not going to print. Let's not write anything here. Choices. Okay. Okay. So square, triangle, rectangle. Okay. Now I go inside the module. और आपकी जो arrays होती है हमेशा BYREF pass होती है. Again, what is BYREF? BYREF means that you will be passing the memory address of that variable. So any changes made to that variable are reflected throughout the program. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say choices dot choices के index 0 पे square था ना. So instead of that I'm going to put nothing. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे क्या होगा टेक्निकली आप लोगों ने जब by-val में देखा था तो this shouldn't affect the choices जो कि आपके मेन प्रोग्राम में. So this is the main program, but this is BYREF at work here. If I print it now, it actually prints nothing. That means कि आपने जो भी change इस मॉड्यूल में किए ना that is going to remain persistent now. This will persist. अभी आपके एक्चुअल में आपकी मेमोरी के अंदर आपने वो चेंज कर दिए वो वैल्यू को. So now the value of square is never coming back until and unless you had saved it beforehand. ये है आपका BYREF. So in fact अगर आप इसका नाम भी चेंज कर दो ना, यहाँ पे हमने choices भेजे ना, so let's change it to my array. ठीक है. यहाँ पे आपकी वैल्यू कॉपी हो जाएगी and let's make it my array as well. Even if you still print the value of choices, it still prints nothing. So ये देखो यहाँ पे इसका फ्लो क्या होगा, choices में ही values आए, आपने जब choices को print करो, then call the procedure with choices in it. The choices is copied into my array as a reference. So ये literal values की copy, जब values जिस address पे वो address copy हुआ है. And then even with the change name, you are still going to make changes, and वो changes आपकी choices के अंदर पूरी reflect होंगी like this.